Hello, this is Beverly with Oasis Wealth Design Group. Thank you for joining us today. Today is going to be the first workshop in a series of 5 that we will be broadcasting to you and have the option of downloading and following along in a workbook. I would ask that you please download the accompanying workbook, the PDF workbook, to follow along with the presentation today to make it worth your time. Before we get started and into all of the details of the workshop, I will invite you to watch a quick whiteboard video of who Oasis Wealth is and why we are here. Take a look and then we'll be right back.
Who is Oasis Wealth? We are a family business that has been serving Guelph and the surrounding area for over 30 years. This is Tony, owner and founder, and this is me, Beverly. We are a no fee-for-service office offering full wealth designs. Together, we focus on your wealth, not just your financial status. You see, financial planning focuses on your net worth, the bottom line. We focus on wealth designs, which capture your entire state of well-being. Let's address the elephant in the room. What's our business model? We are life insurance brokers and referral sources for many different products and solutions, including insurance, investment management, everything from RSPs to TFSAs, as well as banking solutions, debt solutions, and group benefit strategies. We believe that products, however, are never the solution. Let me put it this way. Most of us, somewhere in our home, have a drawer full of miscellaneous items that at one point were useful and valuable to our lives. However, over time, they have started to collect dust in what we often refer to as our junk drawer. Most new clients we see have a financial junk drawer, a filing cabinet, or perhaps just a box of all well-meaning products that at some point were very useful and valuable. However, over time, the way we make decisions and the way we organize often lead to confusion and inefficient use of your hard-earned dollars. Consider playing a game, such as chess or Monopoly. How would the game go if you had no game board? Or what about no rule book? How would you know who is winning or losing? The same can be said for our finances. We often have a lot of great pieces, but no game board or rule book. And this is why we use a game board to design your well-being. Using this game board, you can see every financial decision you have made and will make on one page, clear and simple. The model consists of 5 sections: cash flow, debt, protection, savings, and growth. Every financial product you own fits on this one-page model. This allows every financial decision you make to be organized, coordinated, and integrated. Here is another pitfall. Even with the best organization, when's the last time you had all of your sources of advice in the same room at the same time? Never. See us in the middle? That's your personal CFO. We come alongside your family, and with the game board, we work together to always find the best design given the resources at hand. But you won't pay us a hefty salary to do it. At Oasis Wealth, we don't just settle for needs and good enough. We believe in your maximum potential. We always seek to maximize your protection, maximize your opportunity for growth using multipliers, and ultimately maximize your guaranteed retirement income. Why? Because when it comes to your finances, failure is not an option. So upgrade your advice today with Oasis Wealth, where your state of well-being is our top priority.
All right, welcome back. Now let's get into our workbooks and get into our material for today. So first off, let's talk about what is the most expensive day of the week. What day do you go to Rona and Costco and Walmart and all of the wonderful time that you have to get all these things done? It's Saturday. When we retire, one of the most important things we can know and understand is that every day is Saturday. That can make a big difference into how we view our lives at that point, but also how we adjust our expectations for spending. What do you consider to be a happy retirement? Is it to do with golfing, or perhaps time with the grandkids, traveling, not staying in Canada in the winter? What does it mean for you to be happily retired? The research tells us that there are a few characteristics for a happy retiree. First off, happy retirees typically have at least $500,000 in liquid net worth, don't have a mortgage or about to pay off their mortgage, have 2 or 3 sources of retirement income, have a well-defined understanding of their purpose in life, have at least 3 to 4 core pursuits, something outside of themselves which they can dive into, live in the city or the suburbs. And this was a funny one. The research tells us that those who live in more of an isolated rural community can have a harder time in retirement because that social interaction that usually is in play on a day-to-day working basis ends up going away, and that can significantly impact their mental health in retirement. And of course, take vacations. Who does not want to take a vacation when they retire? Now, this could be just up to a cottage within the Ontario boundaries, or that could be European foreign, who knows? But the point is to get away from the everyday life when you are retired, just like you want to in your working years. That expectation should still be there. Let's get on to what could compromise that happy retirement. That wonderful Saturday, that is every day, to do all those things that we never had time to do in our working years. What could compromise that image? Well, there's a few different risks that could. So let's talk about these. First of all, inflation. Inflation is simply reducing the buying power of your dollars over time. We can definitely see this when you talk to someone who is close to retirement and they remember how much a loaf of bread cost or how much gas was when they first started in their working years. The reality is that a lot of people have the desire and the plan to be retired for just as many years as they were working. And if we saw such a significant difference in our spending and our cost of living in those working years, we should expect that that's also going to affect our ability to spend and how far those dollars will get us in retirement. Number 2, outliving your money. This seems to be a big conversation in the news, in the media, that the average Canadian is concerned about how long they're going to live. And they have to make sure that that money lasts throughout a lifetime. And how when that lifetime ends, nobody knows. Tax law changes. And here, I'm going to put my screen on here just so I can talk to you a little bit about this one. Tax law changes. Now, tax laws can easily affect every area of your retirement when you go into that stage. Mainly if you have all of your savings for retirement, either in defined contribution pension plans at work, which are registered accounts. You do have a guaranteed pension, which would be great, but it is all taxable, or RSPs, which eventually will turn into RIFs, retirement income funds. If all of your savings are in those type of environments, we have to be aware that the risk of the tax law changes affecting our income level will be significant. For example, if you have a RIF and you hit your age 71, you now have to take out minimums. You have to convert it to a RIF and you have to take out minimum. Now, those minimums may not seem astronomical, but later on in our presentation, we'll explore how those RIF minimums might not be realistic to what we are expecting in the market returns for our retirement. In addition, we have to be very cautious because these tax law changes could change at any moment. If they up the rates, there decreases your income. If they change the OAS clawback, where you're no longer eligible for old age security because all of a sudden you make too much money, that also affects your net ability to spend. We have to be very cautious of how we structure our pile of money, shall we say, in our spending and accumulating years in order to take away some of those tax risks that come about in retirement. That is a big one. Next one we're going to talk about is volatility of returns. And we're going to go into detail about this as well. But if anyone who is planning on retiring lived through 2008 and had money in the market, You could easily imagine how someone's retirement could be completely derailed within a matter of a few hours, a few days, if they were planning on retiring at the late of 2008 or the early of 2009. If all of a sudden what they thought they were going to be able to spend in retirement got cut by 30%, all within the swoops of the market, that significantly impacts your ability to have that happy retirement. Loss of principal. Now, this could be unforeseen events or foreseen events. Obviously, market fluctuations can take away a big chunk, but unforeseen needs such as healthcare, such as the need to get a car that maybe was unexpected, need to replace aspects of the house that were maybe unexpected, or other unknowns that maybe aren't terrible. They're not bad things, like a grandchild that maybe as you are planning your retirement, you're not planning on helping your grandkids out in the future, but as people get a little older, they tend to get a little more sentimental. And perhaps they want to help that grandchild out with getting a leg up, getting a down payment on a house, helping with the wedding. Those are losses of principal that we take chunks of change out of our retirement plan for the good or the bad, but they will impact our overall retirement spending strategy. And lastly, lifestyle changes. Obviously, healthcare is a big one. In Canada, we think we don't have to worry as much, but you'd be surprised at the amount of people that are going bankrupt because they were diagnosed with cancer or heart disease or something along those lines. But other things, consider either yourself or your parents, depending on your age. When they were looking at saving for their retirement, did they have any consideration of the fact when they were budgeting for retirement that they had to plan for $50 to $70 a month for internet or a cell phone every couple of years? It was an obsolete thought. No one even had a glimpse of how to plan for that in their retirement. And likewise, there are many things that we can't plan for as to what will come about in our ever-changing world and our ever-changing technology that will affect your bottom line in retirement, that may be some expenses that you can't control. There are a few other retirement risks. If you can think of any others, jot them down in your notebook that may be more prevalent to yourself. Canadians are living longer. I think this is the crux as to why we have to have these conversations on retirement these days. If you think about retirement 40 years ago, it was a very different world. A lot of people worked right until maybe 5, maybe 10 years before they passed away. Life expectancy was less, and the amount of time we had to replace income for in retirement was a lot less. So this affects every aspect of retirement, because if you have longer years to provide for, we have a lot less income we can take from. So it's something we have to be cautious of, because the dynamics of how retirement works has changed, but not necessarily the plans, the strategies, or the products. So we have to rechange our thinking. This is how we see some of the retirement. So I'm just gonna put myself up here for a little bit. There are 3 legs to a retirement income. Back in the early years of what was considered retirement, most people had all 3 of these legs of a stool. So they had a pension plan from their company. It was guaranteed, it was taken care of, and between that and the government pension, so your CPP in your old age, that was really designed to cover all your basic living expenses. It was designed to keep the lights on, to pay for the food, to pay for, to run the gas on the car, and it was designed to have all that extra. The savings were for all this play money, is what we call it. So the vacations, the maybe additional house rentals, or the giving of lump sums away to family, that's what that was for. This day and age, most of us have lost this pension stool. So we don't have that other guarantee, and the government guarantees, which we hope will be there depending on your age, they don't supply for the basic necessities of life anymore. If you have a home that even just has property insurance and has heat and hydro, CPP could easily cover, they maybe cover half of those items. So it's not realistic. This is how it used to be. It used to be that you could, work your 30, 40 years, and you got 30 years, $30,000 a year guaranteed from your work, money from the government, and then you had play money. So the strategies that we use for retirement, traditional strategies today, still constitute under this idea that this play money doesn't have to provide for your full income gap. It was never designed to. Today, this is gone. And in today's way of thinking, in order to get that $30,000 of guaranteed income, today's retiree will need to have $750,000 minimum sitting in this extra savings component in order to give them that same security that they had when they had a pension. So we need to find the ways around this, how this works again in our day and age. So follow along in your workbooks. We're going to do what's called a retirement fitness test. We're going to go through a few examples of how the industry wants us to think and how they typically plan for their retirement. Whether you have done an actual analysis of this for yourself or whether you've just read articles and seen on the news, a lot of the numbers that they'll tell you as to what you need for retirement, that number is based off of these things. So let's assume a 40-year-old that wants to retire at 65. They have a current income of $100,000. Now that could be per family, that could be for individual, you decide. We already discussed that inflation affects our ability to spend. So that 40-year-old, when they started working at 40 at $100,000 income, over those 25 years, a 2% inflation would mean they would have to be making $164,000 at age 65 in order to have the same lifestyle, to say spend like $100 grand. At 4% is $266. So it's pretty unrealistic for most individuals that are working that they're not going to get some sort of lifestyle increases as they work. So we have to accommodate for that. The other thing that the industry will tell us is that you may only need 70% of your pre-retirement income. Now this comes about because of two things. One, they say you're not going to be saving for retirement anymore. They're right. It's true. Most people I see don't save 30% of their income though for retirement. Number two, they say that you will be done your mortgage. Again, usually very true. But what I see of a lot of retirees, unless they pay off that mortgage within that year before they retire, let's say someone pays off their mortgage 5 years before retirement, they didn't take all of those mortgage payments they were paying and squirrel them away for the retirement. Most of them took an extra vacation or got used to just the extra income in their life. So maybe they put some of it away, but they didn't decrease their spending by 30% in order to prepare for this 70% pre-retirement income need. Okay, so, but let's give you the benefit of the doubt, because if you need more than 70%, this might look even a little scarier than it already is going to. If we assume a 2% inflation, we need $114,000. So if I go backwards here, we will see that that constitutes as 70% of 164. Okay, so that's where the number comes from. We're giving you the benefit of the doubt again, that you will get maximum CPP and maximum old age, and we've inflated it by 2% between now and 25 years. Therefore, you need to find the income of $80,000 from your savings. Again, in the olden day, maybe 50,000 of that was covered by a pension is what you would expect. And the other 20 you would have to provide for yourself. But now it's all on you. Good luck. How are you going to get $80,000 a year of income? That's the million-dollar question that we should be asking, not trying to find the what's your number, okay? Let's just put a little scary. If you assume 4% inflation, you need around $200,000 of income, but we'll go with the other one. Traditional approach, okay? If you've ever heard of the safe withdrawal method or Monte Carlo simulations, this will resonate with you. If you have not, listen up. This is how a lot of the retirement experts view how you can pull money of your portfolios in retirement. It is essentially a calculation of the likelihood you have to succeed, okay? If you have a balanced portfolio in retirement, so 50% stocks, 50% bonds as an example, and you live 25 years into retirement, you can take out between 3 to 4% of your portfolio every year if you want a high probability of not running out, okay? This is what it looks like. $1 million based on these retirement experts and based on their back testing and all of their assumptions of how the markets are working, how people are living, $1 million would provide for $30,000 to $40,000 a year of income. So even just going back to our 4-year-old example, if they need 80,000, just a quick number of math can tell you they need quite a bit of money to get to that 80, okay? This is what the portfolio success rates look like. If you have 50% in stocks, if you plan on living 25 years and you want a 100% chance of not running out of your money, because this accounts for the fact that your account will go up and down in the markets, you can take out between 3 and 4%. You live 35 years, you're getting closer to 3%. If you plan on only living 15 years, you've got it. Spend your brains out. You can spend 5, 6, 7% and probably be okay, probably not run out. But the problem here is that we don't know the year we will die. So we can't play those odds, okay? Let's compare this chart. So if this chart and all the successful portfolio rates tell us that we can only take out 3 to 4%, and if you read anything if you go in and Google what you can take out of your retirement accounts, usually they're gonna tell you about the 4% rule. What if we had to take out 5 to 6? What if all of our money was in retirement accounts, RRSPs, which eventually will turn into RIFs or into locked-in accounts, okay? So locked-in retirement accounts, which are usually what old pensions will become. When you get to 71, the government says, I gave you a tax break all those years. I need my money back. So by the year of 71, you're required to start taking money out of those portfolios. At 71, it's 5.28. Every year it goes up. But wait a minute. If I'm required by law to take out 5.28, and the successful people are telling me that if I live anything past 20 years here, I have a really high chance of running out, it can get you can see how this idea of trying to secure and trying to plan all of your retirement based on one bag of money, especially if it's all vulnerable to those changes of the government, is very risky. It's very scary. It's very unhappy, okay? So let's do the math backwards. If you want to write these numbers in your workbook, you should have them in there. To get $80,000 a year from your savings, if we assume a 4% withdrawal rate, you would need $2 million, okay? To get $2 million, if you start saving when you are 40, because we know in the 30s, there's a lot of babies, there's a lot of stuff going on that typically we don't get to that heavy savings in retirement until our late 30s and our early 40s. So start saving at 40. You would need to save $15,000 a year, but only into retirement. No education for your kids, no home rentals, no vacations, strictly into that retirement scenario. Increase that savings by 2% every year. So match your income raise. If you're going to get a raise, you got to line it up with your savings rate and get a year-over-year rate of return of 11.33. Anybody get that in their portfolios last year? How about the average of the last 10 years? The top stocks, even of the top large cap stocks, didn't average above that number. So how realistic is that game plan? It's not very realistic. Now let's assume that you're a little bit older. Okay, so you maybe don't have as much income to replace because you don't have much inflation to impact you. However, you don't have as much time to save, right? What if we're younger? That means our inflated income is going to be even larger. We have longer to save, but we might have more inflation problems between now and retirement. And to be honest, the younger the age, the more thought pattern, the more desire there is to retire early. It's just part of the conversation these days for younger generation. Average does not equal actual rate of return. So if you ever look at your portfolio statements, whether it be from the bank, from a private investor, or however it works, a lot of times you're seeing the average rate of return on that investment. Or when you're going to pick one, when someone says, oh, we've done your risk tolerance, here's the fund that we recommend, and here are the average rates of return. That doesn't necessarily equate to actual rate of return. Let me show you a key example. Okay, someone's got $100,000 in the bank account. They've got 2 years, so let's just take a 2-year scenario. In year 1, They hit the jackpot. They doubled their money. They just got in on Facebook the right year, okay? They doubled their money and they got 100% rate of return. At the end of year one, they got $200,000 in the account. Way to go. Next year, plummets. Gone. Negative 50%. Now, before I plug this in there, do the math at home. Average is taking the sum of two numbers and dividing by 2. 100 plus negative 50, so essentially negative 50 is 50, divided by 2, 25, okay? If this were the scenario, you average 25%, and that portfolio statement would tell you can expect an average of 25% in this portfolio. But at the end of the 2 years, you're actually back where you started. You didn't gain anything. So average does not equal actual rate of return, and we have to be very knowledgeable of this, especially when it comes to spending, because when you are saving, everyone will tell you have time. Time is your friend when you are saving. You have time to take some losses and get back up. You have time to save. You have time for all of these variables that are going to hit you. When you retire, time stops. You don't have time to recover from a market downfall at that point, right? What are the alternatives? How do we solve this big income gap problem? The biggest thing we want to talk about first is when you're talking about retirement, talk about income. Don't talk about bag of money, okay? One bag of money is not going to do the trick. So let's talk about some other alternatives. There's 3 that we're going to talk about, and I'll go through detail on them. The first one is sequence defense. So if we talked about that average does not equal actual rate of return, there's going to be a few years that are going to have downturns in the market. If we have the sequence defense strategy, we're going to increase the longevity of that income and asset by not having everything all in market portfolios in retirement. And I'll show you what that means. Asset insurance. We're going to increase your ability to spend and enjoy more money during retirement by having a guaranteed check at the end. And I'll show you how. And then guaranteed income sources. We want to obtain guaranteed income to last through retirement with the possibility of outperforming safe withdrawal rates. Meaning, we want to go back to those 3 legs of the stool. Can we get ourselves back to that situation where we do have 2 guaranteed income streams and 1 play money? Okay, and it's possible. Sequence defense strategy. Here's what it says. It's a strategy to reduce the chance of running out of money during retirement with using non-market related resources to provide income in any year to offset a previous year's poor market performance, such as when there's a negative market return. So let me show you what that means. Okay? This is a great example. Someone's got $1 million in their retirement account, okay? And they're 65, they're planning on retiring. We're going to plan to 95 now. They live to 105, which is possible. But let's plan 30 years. They plan on taking out $100,000 a year of income. Again, income is the key. In a 30-year period of time, in 1970 to the 2000s were some of the best rates of return and average rate of return in the large cap stocks, okay? So let's take that. They averaged 14.87. So if we look at the numbers, $1 million, earning 14.87, taking out 100,000 at the end of 30 years, way down here, you still have $15 million. You are good. You are set. And that's what the average on a portfolio statement will tell you. Now, what happens if we actually turn on the historical rates of what happens with the ups and downs? You'll notice the average return is the exact same, 14.87. Okay. However, we run out of money at year 14. Gone. It did not suffice. It did not last. Why? Within the first 8 years, we lost more than half of our portfolio. We had 3 downturns right off the bat. This is also something to take into consideration. If you look at 2 different scenarios of people retiring, if someone in their retirement in the first 5 years has a big loss in their portfolio, they're not going to make it to the end. Where on the counteractive, if someone in their retirement has a big loss at the last 5 years of their retirement, they're probably okay. It's all in the sequence defense. So what this sequence defense strategy says, just like life lessons here, folks. I can't control what happens to me. I can't control the markets. I can only control our reaction to the markets. Okay, let me say that again. I cannot control the markets, but I can control my reaction to the markets. Okay, so in this scenario, we can't control and no one can forecast that this is going to happen. Okay, but if you're going to be retired for more than 10 years, you're probably going to have a downturn. But what I do as a reaction to that matters. So what this sequence strategy says is if we have another bag of money sitting somewhere else that's not in the market, that is not dependent on these rates of return because it's as guaranteed, then in these 3 years following a downturn, so let's say year 6, 7, and 9, we didn't have to pull money out of this account. What would happen? So all we've done is pull $300,000 from somewhere else in your world, okay? And by doing that, at the end of 30 years, you have $2 million left. You no longer run out at year 14, okay? This is what sequence defense says. It says if we can't rely on just one bag of money and the rate of return within that bag of money. We need to be in the market. We understand that. There's a value in that. However, if we have a sequence strategy that allows us to have another bag of money somewhere else that's guaranteed, that's not reliant, that's not correlated to this account, we can pull from in a down market, we're going to make our money last significantly longer. Okay, that's what it means. Now, one other thing I want to point out here, if we don't have the sequence defense strategy, what typically happens to an investor after having 2 years of really bad negative returns? Even as you're accumulating, you get a little skittish. Do you call your advisor and say, I need out? Put me in a GIC. I don't trust you. We need to get out of here. Yep. That is investor behavior. So especially if you're doing it all on your own, be cautious because you don't have another sounding board to bounce that concept off of and that fear off of. So what typically happens in most people's world is they have 2 down years, they can't stomach it anymore. They get out. What happens if they get out and they go to a 3% GIC and they miss that 1 year of up? They do that, they run out at year 11, 3 years sooner. Huge risk on your money. So not only do these 3 strategies matter, but you have to understand that having a reliable sounding board in retirement as well for these type of things is also just as important, okay? That is sequence defense. Now that other bag of money can be a bunch of different sources, okay? So depending on where you are in life and what resources we have available, there's a few different places we could pull this from. Cash value and life insurance is a big one because it doesn't go down. Could be equity in your home. Could be even just a non-registered money that is, maybe it is GICs for that portion that we have, okay? So it could be multiple different forms, but depending on your situation, it has to be analyzed within that realm. But all this says is it's okay to have some market volatility so long as we have another bag of money that gives us some guarantees, okay? Asset insurance. Let me ask you this, your house, your personal primary residence, if you own a home, after you are done paying off the mortgage, you are legally not required to carry fire insurance. Did you know that? But would you cancel it? No. Because what happens if that house burns down? You have to go to the bank and pull out all of your savings to rebuild that asset, right? Besides your house, what's your next biggest asset in retirement? Bag of money. After your house, usually your bag of money is your next biggest bag. Your assets are your next biggest bag of money. That pile that you've been saving and working so hard for. What we're saying here is if we have a game plan to protect the replacement of that asset, so when that asset is done, if we spend it all or life takes it all, we have a backup plan, okay? How would a guaranteed check affect your spending today. So let's say you go to retire and you've got $1 million, and person one has all of the risk on that money. Okay, person A over here has all of this risk, the longevity, I don't know when I'm going to die, all the tax rate risks, I've got all the volatility over here, like it's a scary world, but I'm good. I've got this, I've saved my money, I am self-funding myself. Okay. But person B over here says, well, one of the things I can solve for is the fact that I can replace that bag of money in the event of me dying. That means that I have this freedom and the ability to spend that money as fast and as much as I want because I've got a backup plan. There are a lot of individuals that I see in their 80s who get sentimental. Okay, I mentioned this before. They get sentimental. They all of a sudden decide that they don't want to spend all their money, and they get really nervous and really skittish about enjoying that or going out to Swiss Chalet because they're making sure that they have something for inheritance, something for the kids. Now, the kids don't need it. The kids do not need it. And I would agree that most families have the philosophy the kids don't need it, okay? But it is something that if we can prepare for that event, that we know I can spend every penny of my hard-earned money because I don't have to save it for anybody because I've got a backup plan. That's what this does, okay? Third strategy is guaranteed income sources. So we've talked about this, that pensions are disappearing every year. They're just gone. A lot of smaller companies are winding them up and just paying out the employees their lump sums, and then you get to enjoy your retirement. Congratulations. But the reality is that retirement savings were never designed to be the full income replacement. They weren't. They were never designed to give you all of your income. Guaranteed income sources can include multiple different streams of income, okay? They can be annuities, which are pensions that you can buy and create, permanent life insurance, reverse mortgages, optimized CPP, so let's talk about how, when, and how to take it, part-time work, single life pension options, bank certificates, and certain government-backed securities. So some of those guarantees that have an income stream coming from them that is not reliant on that market volatility, okay? Concept here is to retire like a teacher. So we're going to isolate one of them. We're going to isolate annuities. So annuity is essentially when you go to an insurance company and you buy a pension just like an old employer would have. An old employer would have gathered a bunch of money, and then at the time of your retirement, they would have shopped around to multiple different life insurance companies and said, here's my bag of money, here's my age, here's male or female. What income will you give my employee that guarantees him for the rest of his life? That's how they did it. So same concept. In the traditional way, we have a withdrawal rate of 3 to 4% with a balanced portfolio. We've already discovered that's not great. If we want to create a pension, we can take that same money and give it to you. Essentially, we are exchanging it for a paycheck for life. Have you ever seen the commercial Sun Life Money for Life? Same concept. They're one of the many providers, okay? They can guarantee payout rates ranging from 5 to 7. Age and gender dependent. You get paid more for living longer. Congratulations, okay? The traditional way is under full market risk. You have the full weight of the volatility on you. In a pension, there's no market risk. Zero. Contract. It comes like clockwork to your bank account. You can usually get, so based on this 3 to 4%, you can get $30,000 to $40,000 on every million. In a pension situation, you can double that. You can get 50 to 70. Okay. Now there is a lack of flexibility here. So when we go into the pension world, we have given up the rights and the flexibility to use lump sums. However, what most people don't realize in many of their retirement accounts, such as a locked-in retirement account, there are very few circumstances under which you can take lump sums. There will be minimums, there will be maximums that you can take out every year, and that's it. So if we already are in that situation where we have a locked-in retirement account, and we have a minimum and we have a maximum, and we already can't touch lump sums, then why are we living in this world and having it fully exposed to the market when we could put it over here and get higher pay rates and not have any market risk on it? Kind of a no-brainer, okay? What we're doing here is we're exchanging part of the savings tool for a pension. That's all it is. Just an exchange. So again, we don't do it with everything because we need that flexibility and the control of some of those assets for those buying a car, vacations, all that kind of stuff. But the guarantees that you need to keep the lights on, should be in the form of a guaranteed pension or CPP in old age. So here's the ideal retirement scenario. Let's boil it all down to this. 1, have asset insurance. Okay, when you're done working, you are your most valuable assets. That's why you insure your life. When you get to retirement, you need to insure that asset, just like you do your house. 2, have a non-correlated guaranteed cash for market volatility. So again, let's have 2 bags of money. 2 bags of money, one that's in the market that we can pull from, one that's not in the market, so that when this one over here is having its heyday, it's doing what the markets will do, we have another plan. Guaranteed lifetime income to cover all your basic living expenses. So we can only really get to the point of what your basic living expenses are, maybe 3, maybe 4 years before retirement. Until then, all we can do is make best use of the resources at hand. But as you get closer to retirement, that's when we want to start looking at exactly what income do we need to keep the lights on and what other income is play money above that. Okay? Multiple sources of income. I can't stress this enough. TFSAs, great retirement tools, not just for savings. RSPs, non-registered, house equity, cash value permanent life insurance. All of these different sources of income allow you to mitigate the risk, okay? Lower the risk on one bag of money. We don't want everything registered because as we've talked about, if it is all registered, we've got minimums that might eat away at our capital. We are exposed to taxes that we may not be aware of. We're exposed to OES clawback that may be a problem. Oh, and all the GST and old age benefits and all of this free money from the government that you have worked hard and contributed towards. We want to make sure you get the maximum of that, and having everything in a registered environment is not going to do that. Saturday game plan and mentality. Really consider what your Saturday looks like and know that that will be every day. So if Saturday is a really hard day for you for being home and in some ways being more homebody, then you need to be very cautious of what retirement's going to look like for you because that's going to be your everyday. And of course, like I mentioned, a personal CFO or chief financial officer to guide you along the way. You really want to make sure you hone in and find a place that is going to be there and be consistent for you in retirement. That's one of the biggest advantages we have here at Oasis Wealth is the fact that we have Tony, who is senior, who is very well wise, very experienced, but also myself. As a family business, we have a succession plan, and we are planning on being here through the years of retirement. It's not like the bank where every couple of years or maybe every year it's someone different. And the personalities and the perception of your retirement will change. Keep it consistent. You're going to have a lot better chance of success. It all boils down to this. At Oasis Wealth, we believe in playing offense and defense. Okay? Most individual advisors and individual offices out there will play one or the other. Okay, either really good at the offense of building that pot of money or really good at the defense and really good at just insurance. Okay, what we want to make sure is that we have a coordinated game plan that plays offense and defense. It's once been said that offense wins the games, but defense wins the championship. And I would say that retirement is a very long series of games, and we want to make sure we get to that championship. Okay, by employing these 3 strategies, we've reduced a lot of the retirement risks. Inflation. We can spend our money more freely if we have these. Outliving our money, we don't have to worry about that. If we've got asset insurance, doesn't matter how long we live. Tax law changes, multiple bags of money, not all taxable. Volatility, this is the big one that we have definitely addressed within these strategies. Loss of principal, again, other bags of money that aren't reliant on tax rate laws and all of those other considerations. And lifestyle changes. This is something that even having something like asset insurance, some people don't understand or realize, is that if we develop critical illnesses or terminal illnesses, there can be access to cash that you can use before you die, which can help with some of those perhaps really costly terminal illnesses that can take us down sometimes. And so there's access and tapping into those abilities there. Finally, that is where we are going to end our presentation today. So if you do have any questions in regards to the presentation, please send us a note, give us a call. Our information will be on the screen in a few moments. And we, of course, welcome you to our offices. If this is something that you have not yet taken a look at and you are ready to take a look at really a second game plan and maybe crash test yours, to make sure it does work, give us a call. We are open, we are available, and our job here is just to educate to make sure everybody has a happy retirement. Thanks so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.